What if I told you one of the deadliest disasters on U.S. soil during World War II didn't happen in combat, but at a naval base, where the men killed were never properly trained to survive it? In 1944, at Port Chicago Naval Magazine in California, black sailors were assigned one job: load ammunition onto ships. Not regular cargo. We're talking bombs, depth charges, explosives powerful enough to destroy entire fleets. But here's what made it different. They weren't trained. No safety instructions, no preparation, nothing. They were simply ordered to do it. Day after day, these sailors were pushed to move faster, to load more, to compete against each other. Speed mattered more than safety. Production mattered more than protection. And while they handled some of the most dangerous materials in the military, white officers stood at a distance, supervising, safe. The men doing the work weren't treated like trained personnel. They were treated like labor, and labor doesn't get protected. It gets used. At the same time, the United States was deep in World War II. The demand for ammunition was high. Ships needed to be loaded quickly and constantly, and Port Chicago became one of the main locations for that operation. But instead of properly training the men handling these explosives, the system relied on pressure. Faster, more, don't stop, don't question. And most of the men carrying out this work were black sailors. Many of them had no prior experience with explosives, no understanding of the risks, because no one gave them that knowledge. And then, on the night of July 17th, 1944, everything changed. A massive explosion ripped through the port, so powerful it registered like an earthquake. Ships were instantly destroyed. The dock was completely obliterated. The blast was felt miles away. And in seconds, 320 men were killed. Most of them black sailors, the very men who had been ordered to load the ammunition, without training, without protection. It was one of the deadliest disasters on American soil during the war. But what followed may have revealed even more than the explosion itself. After the destruction, after the loss of life, the surviving sailors were given an order. Return to work. Same job, same conditions, same risk, as if nothing had happened. But this time, something was different. 50 black sailors refused. They didn't run. They didn't abandon their duty. They simply said no to going back into the exact same situation that had just killed hundreds of their fellow sailors. They asked for something basic: training, safety, a chance to not die doing a job they were never prepared for. And the response? They were arrested, charged with mutiny, and sentenced to federal prison. Not for violence, not for betraying their country, but for refusing to continue working under conditions that had already proven deadly. The trial became one of the largest mutiny cases in U.S. naval history, but it also exposed something deeper. Because when investigators began looking into what happened, a pattern became clear. Black sailors were consistently assigned the most dangerous work: loading explosives, handling high-risk materials, doing the jobs no one else wanted. But when it came to safety training, to proper instruction, to basic protection, they were denied it. At other bases, white sailors received training. They were prepared. They were informed. They were protected. But at Port Chicago, that same standard didn't apply. And that's what made this more than just an accident. It wasn't just a single moment of failure. It was a system. A system that decided who would be trained and who would be risked, who would be protected and who would be exposed. And when that system failed, the consequences weren't shared equally. Port Chicago wasn't just an explosion. It was proof of how dangerous that system really was. And even after the smoke cleared, even after the trials ended. The deeper issue didn't disappear. It just changed form. And if you want to keep learning the history they don't talk about, subscribe to Blackout History.